But let's stick now with the progress, kind of stay on the progress train in our housing crisis. It feels good, doesn't it? Let's talk about vaccinations now. Vaccinating everyone on Portland's streets and in its shelters is a monumental task. Officials knew that from the start. So cut to their ambassador program and people like Nettie Johnson, who I loved. She is a Street Roots vendor. We met her back in March. She had gotten the vaccine and the county was basically leaning on her and others like her to spread the word to Portland's homeless. She told me she felt strongly about telling people to get vaccinated, and she also said she had been hesitant herself in the first place.
I don't know how to say this word right, but they kept talking about that experiment they did on them airmen. And everybody was like, I'm not having that. I'm not going there and signing up. They trying to kill us. And they start naming all kind of people, Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates. And I'm like, and so what I did is I had to use common sense. It's common sense.
Common sense to get the vaccine. And as you can see, Nettie is pretty personable. She's pretty persuasive. So it's no surprise then that the idea of using ambassadors like her appears to be working. We checked with the Joint Office of Homeless Services, and for reference, the last count of people on our streets and in our shelters was conducted pre-pandemic, but it showed there are more than a total of 4,015 to be exact homeless people in Multnomah County. I should note about half of those are people who live on the streets. The rest are in shelters and transitional housing. Oregon started vaccinating its homeless population in March, and to date, officials say close to 1,200 homeless people have gotten the vaccine. Most of those doses have been administered through vaccination sites at shelters and pop-up clinics at service providers. And on that note, officials have largely been focusing on those in shelters since COVID spreads more easily indoors. Now, though, they're turning to people in camps on the streets.
And now, as we sort of get through the phase of prioritizing our shelter programs, we're turning our attention more to the folks who are living unsheltered and in encampments. And so that looks like setting up clinics out in open spaces, going to meal programs where people are congregating, working with outreach teams to both educate and encourage folks to come to clinics that have been set up. And we've, I think, got about 10 upcoming clinics that are focused on the unsheltered population just in the next month or so.
10 clinics in the next month. So Mark Jolin added, for those living on our streets, misinformation about the vaccine, as you heard Nettie say, is a huge problem, just like it is in any other demographic of our society. And he says that's why people like Nettie Johnson and her message of common sense are so important.